What's going on, guys? Matty G back here with you on Football at Flags. Thanks so much for joining us as always. Today's video is all about the three awards we're going to see handed out at the 2024 Euros. The top goal scorer, the player of the tournament, and the young player of the tournament. So sit back and join us while we take you through some potential selections we could see win these awards. 5 different players we have selected to potentially win this Young Player Award. We'll start with Lamine Yamal for Spain, who had 7 goals and 10 assists for Barcelona this year. He's been an incredibly electric player out on the wing, and a guy who's already got 2 goals in just 6 appearances for Spain internationally-wise as well. But we know with how much Spain like to dominate possession, how much width is important, and how important it is to get to the inline and maybe drive inside with certain opportunities to attack as well. This guy could definitely be a factor for Spain in this tournament. Moving forward, though, for England, Jude Bellingham has to be on this list, and for me, a potential favorite to win this. Just 20 years old. He had 23 goals and 12 assists for Real Madrid this year coming over from Dortmund. Has had a phenomenal England career thus far. We saw a great goal he had against Iran to start off the World Cup for England just a year and a half ago, and a guy who I definitely think could start and get a ton of minutes for England coming up in this tournament. For Florian Wirtz in Germany, he had an unbelievable year for Bayern Leverkusen this year with 18 goals and 20 assists. He's had a really solid performance so far with Germany in 16 appearances, but just 1 goal. We could definitely see him make a huge impact with this team in the Euros. Down the list, though, for Xavi Simons and Netherlands, a guy who had a really solid year for Leipzig, and another player who, for me, potentially could have a breakout year, but the question is how much will he potentially start, or how much of an impact can he have coming off the bench, because this is a very deep roster for Netherlands. I think it's going to be difficult for him to get in the team right away, potentially, but again, a guy who could at least come off the bench with some potential opportunities to make a huge impact. And then last but not least, Warren Zaire-Emery for France, another guy who, again, has had a solid year for PSG, just 3 goals and 6 assists, just 1 assist in his short French career thus far. And again, another guy that's a very deep bench for France in terms of that midfield. It might be difficult for him to potentially start right away, but if France are able to take care of some business in the group stage potentially early on, we could see him get some better minutes possibly if he doesn't break out here in training before the tournament starts. But for me, though, with this award, I'm going to have to go with Jude Bellingham. I just think that this guy has been unbelievable for Real Madrid. We saw how phenomenal he did with Dortmund, and of course, you know, even before that, with some of the progress that he's made up to this point, still has such a bright future and still so young, and a guy that I really think could help lead England to a phenomenal tournament. Now on to the top goal scorer award. We'll start with Romelu Lukaku in Belgium. I definitely think they're in one of the weaker groups. If, you know, they can get off to a good start, really kind of impose their will against some of these sides, I think they could put up some crooked numbers, and definitely think Lukaku could kind of get out to a big jump with a couple of goals under his belt early in this competition. So definitely somebody I think to look out for with this. For me, definitely Harry Kane has to be on this list as well. We saw the great year he had coming over from Tottenham to Bayern Munich this year. He's going to be playing in some familiar territory as well with this tournament being in Germany, and again, just an unbelievable world-class goal scorer and striker, and definitely could lead England to a great tournament. For me, Federico Chiesa is on this list just because of the way he scored a couple of his goals in 2020. I think were certainly very impressive. He's so energetic, so fast, got a great touch to him, can cut on a dime, and I definitely think he'll have his chances. We'll just see if he's able to take them and stay healthy as well. For Netherlands, I do have Memphis Depay on here. I know you could argue a couple different players. Kind of had his up and downs as of late, but definitely think when he's got a Dutch uniform on, he is just unbelievably impressive. And I definitely think Netherlands have a great opportunity to make a deep run in this competition, which for him just means more opportunity at trying to potentially score goals. Moving on, Kylian Mbappe has to be on here, more so than anybody else, I think, on this French side, and definitely the guy who's going to lead the charge. We know what an incredible job he's done with this team so far, and he's still so young and has so many bright years ahead of him. He's got to be on this list. For Spain, I do have Joselu A guy who really has just kind of burst onto the scene and really played very well as of late. We saw the couple goals he had against Bayern Munich in the Champions League semifinal, and definitely with how much Spain dominate possession, try and really suffocate teams inside their own final third. It's not always pretty with how they put the ball in the back of the net. Sometimes you got to poach, sometimes you just got to be in the right moment at the right time. I definitely think he's the type of player that can do that for this group, especially if maybe they're not quite in sync in scoring the way that they really want to. Down the list, though, Cristiano Ronaldo's got to be on this list for me, at least, especially with Portugal. We'll see how much he starts, if he has to come off the bench. A lot of different questions up in the air, but if Portugal are able to, create a few penalty opportunities, which I hate to say, but if he's on the field, he's obviously going to take them. Very experienced, can certainly put the ball in the back of the net. And if that happens, or he just comes in pretty decent form and actually shows us some stuff through the run of play, he could get off to a good start as well in one of the weaker groups, in my opinion. Moving on down the list, Kai Havertz for Germany. Really had a slow start at Arsenal this year, but picked it up as things moved on. Once he got comfortable, he played phenomenal. Another guy that can definitely draw fouls inside the box as well, but again, can score in a multitude of different ways at the same time. And definitely, I think, a huge threat and a big piece for how much Germany can attack in this tournament. And then the last two guys, I have Breel Mbolo from Switzerland, a guy who I definitely think is such a great aerial threat, very strong, very physical, and someone who I think doesn't maybe quite get the respect he deserves, especially at least in some of these international situations. And I just really love his style of play. I think he's definitely a great character and somebody to look out for in this tournament. And then last but not least, Robert Lewandowski. Again, this is what's so much fun about the international game. We see these great teams that are put together by these clubs, but then you see these superstars go their separate ways, be put on their international teams, and have to kind of put the team on their shoulders in certain situations. And who knows, I don't know if Poland's going to be able to make a deep run in this tournament or not, but to see Lewandowski at least give them an opportunity in the group stage, put some goals in the back of the net, and possibly see them out to at least a knockout stage fixture is definitely exciting. And again, he's one of the best players in the world. But for this award, I'm going to have to go with Harry Kane. I just think that what he's able to do this past year with Bayern Munich, how influential and important he is to this English side, and again, the guy who's probably going to step up as long as he's on the field and take their penalties as well. Again, a team that we've seen in the past score a lot of goals during the group stage. He has a great opportunity to do so against Denmark, Slovenia, and Serbia, and could really lift off way ahead of everyone in the early going for this award. Now on to the final award of the tournament, obviously the player of the tournament. We'll start with Kevin De Bruyne from Belgium. Again, we know how influential he is, arguably the greatest midfielder in the game right now. Had some injury problems with City earlier this season, but as soon as he comes back, picks up right where he left off, scoring some fantastic goals and pulling the strings for this side in a lot of different ways. Again, maybe didn't have quite as many minutes as he would have liked, but again, we know how important he is to this Belgium side internationally. For England, I do have Harry Kane and Phil Foden. Phil Foden, of course, being the Premier League Player of the Year, 27 goals and 11 assists for City across all competitions. Harry Kane's got 62 and 89 appearances for England. He had 44 goals in all competitions for Bayern Munich this season. Two guys that I definitely think are going to help take them a very long way in this tournament. For Netherlands, I do have Cody Gakpo, who had 3 goals in his World Cup in 2022, which obviously helped catapult him into the Liverpool side. He had 16 goals and 6 assists this season, which is pretty solid, but I'm sure he would have loved to have more minutes than what he did throughout the entire year. But again, a guy I think that's going to be very important for this Dutch attack going forward, and again, another team that I think could make a deep run, so we could see them an awful lot. For Italy, I have Donnarumma and Jorginho. I think Jorginho's got a very long outside shot, but he had an incredible 2020 tournament, and I think a very important part for this side, again, pulling the strings with their possession from their back line going forward, getting the ball wide, finding space, and just keeping possession and doing a lot of great things. And Donnarumma, of course, had a great tournament, had some great penalty saves in that 2020 run to the title as well, and again, is the defending winner of this award. For France, of course, Mbappe again has to be on this list, and I put Griezmann on there as well, a guy who I don't think gets as much credit as he deserves for this French side and all that he does, whether it's through assists, finding different pockets of space to be able to play, putting guys in better positions than himself, in my opinion, in a lot of instances, especially as he's just gotten older and wiser and sees the field a lot better. an unbelievable player, in my opinion, and somebody that I definitely think could go on and win this award for potentially, I think, a second time. I think he won it in 2016. But for Portugal, I do have Bruno Fernandes. We'll see how important he is. Obviously very important for Portugal. Had a pretty solid year for Man United as well. It's just whether he can keep his head level and on straight if Portugal do face adversity. I think this is, again, another team that can make a deep run in the competition. We know how important Bruno is, and obviously another chance for him as well if Ronaldo does not start or maybe gets taken off later in some games and stuff, and they have some penalty decisions or some opportunities, Bruno has a good chance to potentially score some extra goals in this tournament as well. For Spain, I have Morata and Rodri. Rodri, unbelievable player for City. Obviously, just make sure you look for the guy who's got his kit tucked in on the field if you don't know who that is. But again, definitely could, I think, play with some of the greats and some of those teams that Spain had about a decade or so ago, and a guy that is just so influential for them. And definitely, I think, going to be a very important piece of how far they can go in this competition between their possession and obviously his ability to strike and score some goals as well, but just so very important at anchoring this Spanish attack and in possession, and how much they're going to look to do with that throughout the tournament. Down the line, Toni Kroos, of course, kind of with his last affair here, retiring after this tournament. I think, again, with the fact that Germany's at home, he has a great shot at having a great tournament as well, and give us a few more magical moments on top of the ones that he's already displayed through his club and international career. And then for me, I think Leroy Sané deserves to be on this list as well. We know how pacey he is. If they can get on the counterattack, with how much Bayern likes to do that, you know, he is so difficult going at defenders with space, putting them in uncomfortable positions, and he could definitely benefit with a lot of potential goals and scoring opportunities in general for Germany throughout this tournament if they can make a deep run at the same time. And then, of course, at the bottom of the list, I do have Luka Modric. We'll see if this is his last hurrah as well. Hopefully not. But again, it does look like his time at Real Madrid is up, so we'll see what his future for his club duties look like, but again, we just know how influential Luka Modric is, still at 38, older than Wayne Rooney, and what he is able to do with this side. A great opportunity for him to hopefully give Croatia a chance once again at possibly winning some major hardware. But for me, with this award, I'm going to go with Kylian Mbappe. I just think with how much we've seen him and how much he's grown at still such a young age over these international tournaments and in such difficult situations. You think about his penalty miss against Jan Sommer in Switzerland in the last Euros and how far he's come since then. I think this is really kind of a revenge tour for them as well. Well, guys, as always, thanks again so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And if you haven't seen our group stage picks for the Euros, that is here on the screen now. You can go click and watch that video as well. We'll have more predictions on some potential knockout fixtures as well in the days to come. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we'll see you soon.